Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. I'm your host, Bchek. I'm joined by my legendary co-hosts, Legendary and Sammy. We're going to get into everything that's been going on over the long weekend in the crypto and NFT market. But before we do that, just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice. This modern market is exceptionally risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Tuesday. It is the 2nd of April. It is a new month. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, it's so good that we're back with the modern market. Honestly, I've been very busy over the weekend getting a lot of work done. Mostly when I talk about work these days, I mean strategies to achieve more gold on blast. So I had no idea what's going on in the market. I was like, wait, Memeland has a chain. Wait, Ethena Airdrop is live. Wait, I can claim that. I had absolutely no idea what's going on. And when I told you before the show, you were like, oh, you took a break. And I was like, nope, didn't take a break, but I did focus on other things. So it's good to be back in the news cycle, be looped in. I had a bit of fun on 1st of April, trying to find out what's real and not in terms of announcements. Had my own little April's Fool
Oh, did
saying that
you?
I'm taking a step back from NFTs. I actually wanted to make a joke around the modern market and not tell you and not tell Sammy and be like, I'm going to step down as a co-host of the show, etc. I was like, nah, that's maybe taking it a step too far. But then I did see that Ovi and Mando did the very same with
Yeah,
Bug
they did the
Radio in
same
that
joke.
WhatsApp group chat, which was hilarious. And then I also remember posting that Pixelmon had their anime trailer / teaser out there, and I posted it because I thought it looked sick. And I was like, wait, is this an April's Fool too? And I'm like, nah, it can't be. It's too expensive, too high production quality. But yeah, I was tripping a bit with April Fool's jokes over the weekend.
I'm glad you didn't do it. The joke. I retweeted D Farmer's tweet, which said, "None of you guys are funny. Stop trying to make these jokes. They're not funny. They're not making me laugh." That was my take on it. However, I do wonder, do you think from a company perspective now, like, is it not possible to do any work on April? Like, you can't make an announcement on April the 1st, right? Like, say Pixelmon did that thing and you had that doubt in your mind. Like, do you think you should just leave it? No announcements on
Probably,
April
yeah. There were a
1st and move
couple
it
of
to the next
bigger
day.
announcements on the 1st of April where there was like a bit of doubt going on. Is this real? Is it not real?
Which
And
ones?
also, if like a publicly traded company and then happened in the past, and you make a joke and people take that for real and it impacts the stock price, that's a fucked up situation.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's kind of a funny situation to be in. Sammy, did you make any April Fool's jokes? Did you find any funny? Were there any funny ones that you saw?
To be honest, I was so head down that I just forgot it was the 1st of April. So by the time I realised it was towards the end of the day, and I was like, it's probably too late to make them.
Okay.
And by that time, I think all the ones that have been made were probably rumbled out as whether they were fake or not. So I feel like I missed the boat a little bit, unfortunately. But I think Kermit posted a thread on about 5 or 6 of them, so I had a look through that. But there wasn't really
Or,
anything that stood out.
or like a compilation, best of.
Compilation. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't even realise that the Ethena airdrop was live, so I've definitely made a note of that.
Okay, there you go. And that's very important for everyone else. If you're involved in Athena, that airdrop is live. I was involved in it. I think that should be a big protocol. We're going to explain a little bit more about that in just a little bit. One final reflection before we get into the headlines. Something I was thinking was, it's funny how, like, at this point in time, the timeline is both simultaneously full of alpha, but equally like very, very distracting. So it's funny how, like, you guys said you were completely plugged in, working hard, but at the same time, like, off the timeline, so like not checking things. But I'm sure a lot of people probably feel like, well, if you're not on the timeline, how are you picking up like the quick moves that you got to make in order to, I don't know, find a coin or, you know, get into one of these quick positions? And I guess the point is, like, would it be right to say, because it's probably what I'm thinking out loud here, like, we've already got our strategies in mind. and whatever's happening on the timeline is kind of irrelevant. Yes, there's quick plays. Yes, like MFA launched on, I don't know when it was, on Friday, that coin, and it ripped up, and like, you know, but it all happened so quickly. And are we basically saying we're turning that side of our brain and that side of opportunities off because we've got something more strategic? Legendary, your thoughts first.
I think so, to a certain extent. It's hard to do both. Like, I kind of realize it with my working on gold, that it is a lot of work. And I'm like, yes, of course, I could have a third screen up and try to still read the timeline all the time, but then like probably likely to make a mistake with some of the things I do or miss something in there. So it is almost impossible to stay on top of, like, quote unquote, like a day job, if you want to call it like that.
Wait, what's the day job? The gold
blast
one.
enjoyer. Yeah, the blast enjoyer. And then also like have those short-term trades going. But I do think that it's like seasonal. Like, it's those 4 weeks until May that I think blast is going to be really important. And by being in depth into this ecosystem, there will be also plays there before the mainnet launches, in terms of maybe meme coins, maybe other things where it's like time critical to get in, and I won't miss those. And after that, I know it's not going to end. I know there's going to be more things, and certainly more gold or other rare metals to farm after that. But I do want to switch my focus back to more like timeline-based things. But I've been enjoying that like strategic side, also in terms of like having my investments made and my bets placed there, because it allows you like to take a step back and focus on other things. And Zeneca, actually, last thought on that, had an excellent post where Zeneca said that he has also done more than 40 Angel/KOL rounds, and now is taking a bit of time to travel, etc. He's basically placed his bets, he's allocated, and now the biggest risk on like still continuing to trade and being on the timeline and trying to make more moves in play is to overtrade. So it is helpful to take a step back, and I very much welcomed that this is blast for me. And well, of course, the upside of that is that it makes even more money on top. So that's not something to shy away from.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. It seems like you've kind of picked blast as your thing. I know that's one of my things as well, but the timeline seems like really fragmented, in the sense that, like, yeah, you've got all these people who are like truly gold diggers now, just like digging for the gold, exploring, like trying to get as much gold as possible. But then you've also got people like absolutely printing on Farcaster, for example, and the DEGEN coin. And like these two groups are not part of the same groups of people. People who've like really specialized in that side and are like getting to know that ecosystem really well. Then you've got people, and maybe that's kind of a bit of overlap with the base people and the TVL on base. This is another piece of news from the snapshot. Like, I think they had $1 billion day, or maybe it was a week, or I can't remember the precise data. I'll read it out later. But basically the TVL is rocketing on base. And I think that probably has a bit more crossover with the Farcaster people. But like, there's people who are specializing in that. Then you've still got Ordinals going. Like, you know, there's multiple Ordinals mints which are selling out, just like always in profit straight away, like always up only from the mint. So just like, there's just a lot of stuff going on. It feels like people are picking their niche. Sammy, do you have any reflections on that? Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you only have so much capacity to dedicate your attention to something in depth, because I think the chances of like jumping on the timeline and finding that alpha, a lot of the time the boat's already sailed. So
that's what I'm finding. Yeah,
for me, it's like, okay, well, why don't I look in a place where I want to become like a subject matter expert, look in there, like dig into it deeply, and then find those gems early on and actually start using the protocols. Because I think for me, like, I'm not that deep on Ordinals, I'm not that deep on Farcaster. I've got accounts, I've dabbled a little bit, but it's just not really my neck of the woods, and I've accepted that. And I think that if I was to then try and spread my attention across there, I'd become a jack of all trades and master of none, and you're just not going to make any money doing that. So
yeah, okay, that's really, really interesting. I want to dive in a little bit more there. I see English with his hand raised. No, he'll want to come in on Ordinals, but we'll do that in just a second. What we'll do first is we'll get to the headlines to get you up to speed with everything that's been going on in the past 24 hours. And then we'll do a little bit of a circle around like the key areas that we just spoke about, a bit of DEGEN and whatever's going on there with L3, bit of blast, bit of Ordinal focus, just to give people a taste of what might be happening and what people are thinking about predominantly in those spheres. So let's get into it, starting with the headlines and some price action. As always, this is from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find it brings you some value today, please do give it a like. I'm going to share it on the screen for the people watching in. We're live on X, live on YouTube too. Some with some price action. Bitcoin is down 4% at 66.6K. ETH is down 5% at 3.3. Solana is down 7% at $183. So the first headline is just all of that price correction in crypto. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Number two, Memeland announces Meme Chain will issue redacted and use meme token as the native gas token. They say that MemeNet is a blockchain that offers a safe, low-cost, DEGEN-friendly way to build on-chain. We are incubating MemeNet inside of Memeland, leveraging the last decade of our experience building social and crypto products. We plan to decentralize the chain progressively over time. We like progressive decentralization. Hopefully NFT Stats, Sam is with us. He'll be able to speak to that. We're going to do that towards the end of the show today. Next, Ethena Airdrop is live today as MakerDAO proposes allocating $600 million towards USDE and staked USDE. This is like one of the biggest stable coins now. It's not literally a stable coin, but it operates as a stable coin. And we've got some statistics on this. I think it has 1.5% of all stable coin market share now, which is a very interesting stat. We're going to confirm that in just a little bit from the article that we've got. Getting into some floor prices, we have CryptoPunks at 4 ETH, sliding down. They were at 50 ETH a while ago. Bored Apes at 12, down 2%. Mutants at 2 ETH, down 5%. Seeing sales for under 2 ETH there as well. DGods down 5% at 1.6. Captains at 3.6. Azuki's at 4.5. Penguins down 11% at 12.2. Mad Lads at 138 sold. Noun's winning bid was at 8.8 ETH. Some notable sales, and Azuki Spirit sold for 72 ETH. CryptoPunk Clown selling for 50, and a Fidenza going down to as low as 31.25. But I guess that's still around the 100K mark, so not too far away from that figure. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. Anything catching your eye before we get into a bigger discussion on the headlines?
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from the Spirit sale, I think Mutants going below the 2 ETH mark, at least when it comes to bids now being in the 1.9-ish region, is definitely that something that stood out to me. And also saw a move up with Treeverse, the plots in Loopify's game that he is building. They're up 10% on the day. So I did want to check in if I missed the news with them or someone just did a sweep on them.
Yeah, with the Loopify stuff, I have a bunch of timeless
characters, yeah.
Timeless characters, because I'm thinking their game's coming soon. They did a raise. I can only assume that there's some kind of token coming with it. But it seems like one of the things I've noticed recently is like these things will pump into an announcement and immediately retrace. It is so hard right now for these collections to maintain a price. Mockaverse, right, I'm going to refresh the page. I can't even believe that. Mockaverse is down to 3.7 after their huge kind of token announcement. It keeps going up to like 4.5, 4.7, and then we'll just immediately lose an ETH straight away, because people are either impatient or just not willing to hold that type of asset. Sammy, any reflections here? We're looking at the Mintify heat map here. We've got Cool Cats down 17%, MF is down 15%. Yeah, as you said, Mutants down 6, Pudgy Penguins down 12. What's the situation here from your side?
Well, I thought the standout there to me is the Matrix Cuckoo. It's up 34%. I think that's probably something to do with the fire token, but again, that's something that was known. So it's just one of those things where they make an announcement, and then everyone just has that shiny object syndrome and chases it from one thing to the next. So probably a similar thing with the Mockaverse stuff. I know they had like a 25-30% run up in the week prior to the actual announcement. So I think that hit 5 ETH, and it's probably the highest we'd seen Mocka at. So I think just a bit of a sell-off, as I think they announced the locations, and there was a bit of confusion around like the FAQs, which then got published. So I think with Mockaverse specifically, I think it's just kind of trading at people just trying to change their bags. But the Matrix Cuckoo one just stand out, just seem a bit of a hype jump at 34% up.
Yeah, I agree. A good point about Mockaverse. Like, I'm obviously a holder there, and I do think there's something to be said for teams in general needing to communicate more clearly, like who's allowed to participate in whatever you have planned, and can you please tell us before? Because it's kind of annoying to hold an asset, and this is a hangover from, remember, Artifact, when these people were holding those Nike boxes for months and months and months, trading them at a really extortionate price, then finding out that the majority of the world couldn't even participate by buying them because it was for US only or something. So yeah, definitely helpful to have locations communicated appropriately. Okay, that's a bit of a roundup from NFT world. Let's get into the bigger discussion. As always, we're going to do a bit of a discussion before we hit the headlines. Picked out a couple of things here. So we're going to talk about three things. One, like the DEGEN thing and Farcaster. Two, Blast. Three, Ordinals. Let's go to Ordinals first, because English had his hand raised, our resident Ordinals expert. There's been a bunch of mints recently. Last week, I think Only Force was a cheap-ish mint, was up only after that, maybe a 2 or 3x. We had Ink on BTC, also a relatively cheap mint, and went up a good multiple too. English, what are your thoughts here? Welcome to the stage, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. Give us a quick TLDR on everything, like the state of Ordinals at the moment.
Well, GM, thank you for having me. It's a treat for me to be able to come on in the morning. Normally, I can't attend. I'm on the train on the way to New York.
Oh, nice.
First of all, yeah. So if I'm in and out, I'll go back on mute. Just let me know.
Cool.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of presumptuous that you thought that I would only chime in on Ordinals.
Come on, English. You know that's why you put your hand up.
No, I literally didn't. I had a thought. Like, believe it or not, it was outside of Ordinals. It was. And I'm going to tie it all back together just for all you guys.
Okay,
so like,
okay.
And I'll even tie into the snapshot too. So like the thing that caught my attention was Fidenzas at 30. And it just made me think of OSF flooring his Fidenza like at 60 ETH or whatever it was at the time, and going into WIF. And this is something that I said with the show that, you know, Dan Cinetti and I did, and he's talking about Blast and like triple staking his ETH and then going to layer 3 and then going to YOLO. And like, yeah, like it's cool. Like, that's fine. Like, if that's what you want to do, and like this was like, you can't be everywhere at all times. But like, I'm an Ordinals person, you know, and I will chime in about Ordinals. But like, if you're bullish on something, I really do believe that like the top meme coin is no longer a meme coin. Like, WIF is not about WIF and a dog with a hat anymore. Pepe is not about the meme Pepe. And maybe Bread on Base is not about that meme either. They're just like a high beta play to it. So like, I think if you want exposure to anything, you just find the meme coin that's the highest and you just forget about it. Like, it might go up and down. Meme coins might get like cool off for a month or two, but like, they're not going to go away. And directionally speaking, they're gonna go in the right direction. So if you believe that Solana is going to hit 400, 300, 500, BTC is going to be 100, 150, 200. That's where you want to put your things. And then for me, I would play in Ordinals. And that's how I would think about it. The state of Ordinals right now.
English, can I ask a specific question
Sure.
on Ordinals? Why is it the case, and yeah, you can go on to explain the state of it as well, but why is it the case that it seems to be most things on Ordinals at the moment, they mint it and then they just go up in price? Quick 2-3x for whitelist people. Like, what is it about the state of Ordinals that means that's the case?
So there's everything still in price discovery. Like, nobody has any idea what the top is. So like, I'll make comps to like Ethereum. Like, I don't think anybody thinks that Bored Apes will be 100.
English, you're cutting out, mate. It's been
150. It allows less speculation, but that's not the case.
Okay. You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit.
Could you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's in and out, mate. So I think we'll pause it there.
Are you able to hear me now? Yeah, I'll go back to mute.
Yeah, we'll pause it there, man. But appreciate your takes on things which are not Ordinals, which was not necessarily expected, but very welcome. So I appreciate you for that. I'm going to do a little bit on DEGEN and Farcaster. Had a couple of takes here to speak about. We had Moon Overlord sharing this. I'm going to share it for the people watching in, saying, he said this. I missed the entire run, so I'm not being biased, but DEGEN feels different than the other meme coins. I know people are up 100x. It doesn't matter. SHIB went to 40 billion last cycle, and meme coins are going to go even higher this cycle because the crypto market cap will be way larger. So a couple of questions. Well, one point first about what's going on there. So Farcaster obviously doing this interesting thing where the DEGEN that you have, so long as you have like a certain amount of DEGEN in your wallet, you then get an allocation. And the point is you're meant to like keep giving it away to people. And it seems to be the case that the DEGEN just keeps going up in value as this is happening. So it's got to a ludicrous position where I think I was doing a show with Thread Guy yesterday. He was saying he has something like $1,800 worth of DEGEN to give away every day. And like he has to do that every day. It's like a daily allowance. So obviously that's going to attract a hell of a lot of people, and they've been reporting record numbers of users. Some of the more traditional people who'd moved over there like complaining because it's kind of ruining the vibe that all these people are coming in to get paid in DEGEN. But at the same time, isn't that what makes our space like really move in the way that it does? Legendary, check in with you here first. Like I don't believe you've messed around with the Farcaster side of things at all, but do you have a take on like where DEGEN goes? Is that a sustainable model? Like, is this the way to bootstrap that app and make it work better?
I actually have set up my Farcaster account like 10 or 11 months ago, before it was like a big thing, and played around with that, but I didn't play around now over the last couple of months while it was hyping and trending.
Sure.
Maybe just as a bit of a disclaimer on that. On Moon Overlord's take specifically, I have a hard time with the part that it feels different, because we keep saying that in the space all the time when something is pumping more than basically more than its peer group. Like we said it with Tome, we said it with Pepe, we said it with Whiff. And I think that English's take was like very good, that at a certain level, it's just not about the meme anymore. And it's more about like the beta play that you get on a certain thing that you want to get exposure on the underlying. So I definitely agree with that. For Farcaster, I think it's a very good thing, obviously, because it is an attention game after all. And they have been struggling for a long time to get attention. Like I remember when I got in and wanted to speak about Farcaster, was like, nah, like what the fuck are you on about? We are all on Twitter, which wasn't X back then. And if anything, then we talked about moving to Threads, because that got all the attention with high download numbers, etc. And now it seems like that Farcaster has managed to get attention on multiple levels. But what was certainly, in my opinion, the number one driver is a token play, and is the fact that people are up significantly on something, more so than the feature set, more so than the native blockchain integration that they have, with a couple of things going on, which are all like very, very cool things. But at the end of the day, we're like so monetarily driven in this space that if you want to grab attention, you need people who are up on a trade significantly to post about that. And hence, I think it is a good mechanism for them to garner a bit more attention on the timeline.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair take. Would it be fair to say then, like, I mean, I think this is a definite opportunity for people with that much amount of DEGEN in circulation, not just in circulation, but that needs to get distributed to people at the moment. It's a clear opportunity for people to go and get involved. But is your thinking about that opportunity like, I recognize it, but I'm focused on other things, I can't deal with all of these things at the same time, or are you going to try and play that one at the same time?
I probably will skip that one, just because I'm so fully allocated with all of my other like bets and investments, and I'm like not even capital wise, but like time wise.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's
the time
point,
to
right?
keep up with that if I were to put money in it.
Yeah, it's not even about capital anymore. It's just about time. Sammy, quick reflection from you. Then we'd love to hear from Oxy and Funky on this too.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Farcaster's done in terms of like connecting to other apps. I think Base as well, that's pretty interesting stuff going on there. It's obviously closely tied to that. You had Frames that popped off a month or two ago that just went absolutely parabolic in terms of stuff being minted through that. And I think that connection to Coinbase and Base, like it just makes sense that you're going to have that easy flow into it, like from people that aren't necessarily in crypto. It could be a potential entry into it. So I saw a post from, I think it was either Ben Roy or War Daddy Capital. They spoke about Ben Roy tipped some DEGEN token to War Daddy's girlfriend at some point on Warpcast. and now that's worth like $2,000, and it's onboarded her into crypto. So it's just like, it's obviously working. Like, she checked it recently and was like, wow, this is just insane. So it's interesting to see what that financial incentives does.
Yeah, I want to move the conversation. Hopefully one of these people, one of Oxy and Funky, is able to speak to like the L3 element. They've launched an L3 on the back of it. Maybe Funky's more knowledgeable on that side. Hopefully he can come in on that, just being like, what the hell is that? Is that relevant? Is it useful? Is it interesting? Maybe we'll hear from that in a second. Oxy first, welcome to the stage, my friend. What's your thought on DEGEN and the Farcaster opportunity?
Yeah, thank you for having me. But I guess firstly, I really like Farcaster. I've been using it quite a bit, and specifically the DEGEN. I think it's a cool way to reward like content creation. Like, it's obviously not taking anything out of anyone's pocket necessarily. I mean, you have to hold 10,000 DEGEN to, you know, get your daily allowance, but it's a cool way to reward someone, and then at the end of the month, they get to cash out their DEGEN, and then at the current at the current price of 5 cents or whatever, you can actually get some money out of it, or you can swap it to ETH or whatever you have. That said, it's aggressively inflationary, right? I just looked at TG's allocation, $2,300 actually closer to 2,400 USD that he can just give out for free, and then at the end of the month, every day, right? And then at the end of the month, someone literally can claim at 5 cents 2,400 DEGEN if he gave you the entire allowance. So it's aggressively inflationary, right? And I guess we'll see. We'll see what like the DEGEN level layer 3 is like. I've done some trading on there, so essentially it's like, I guess it's just like a level 2, but built on top of base, and you use DEGEN as a means to transact. So like, I bought meme coins with my DEGEN. So like, I got tipped 3,000 DEGEN over the last month. I claimed the 3,000 DEGEN. I swapped it all into, or like bridged it over to the L3 chain, and then I traded with that 3,000 DEGEN to buy DEGEN meme coins, I suppose. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of insane. So I guess we'll see what gets built on there. Like, there's mints on there. There's obviously meme coins on there. So like, there's aspects that could sort of like curb the inflation, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's all so new. I mean, it just happened, I think, this weekend. So
yeah, that's awesome. Really, really helpful contribution there, Oxy. Appreciate that. The inflationary point is very, very important. Like, all of that money doesn't exist, then suddenly it does exist for all of these people all at one time when the claim comes. So that's an important point. Interesting on the layer 3 thing as well. I wasn't completely certain on how that functions. So interesting to hear that. Funky, would love to hear your thoughts too, my friend. Welcome to the stage. What are your thoughts here?
Thanks so much, B. I just wanted to make a funny comment because Kusho hasn't been around, and he was talking about Farcaster many, many months ago. So I'm thinking that he's DEGEN rich at this point.
Yeah, he's done. He's out. He's logged off.
But to your point about the L3, I mean, again, this is speculative on my part, but just seeing the congestion we've already seen on base, which is obviously already in L2. You're seeing this narrative about L3s, which I'm assuming is just another layer built on top of an L2 to kind of minimize those transactions, package them as a single block, and then send that down to base. And then base, of course, is going to send that as part of it, with going to the ETH mainnet. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at is Russian, those nested dolls kind of thing. And I don't know if this is necessarily going to solve the major problem, which is that ETH is not scalable. Right, you're going to continue to create these L2s that act as almost standalone islands that still require some other kind of bridge. And until we really have that sort of dank sharding on ETH, we're never going to solve these problems. We're just going to keep adding these layers. So I don't know how much of a solution this is for these L3s long term.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, and to your point, guys, if any of you do make it, anyone on stage, you got to come back. Like, what else are you going to do? You're going to take your DEGEN winnings and sign off? Like, come on. You got to keep coming to the show. That's a prerequisite. We need to check in on Kusha, make sure he hasn't got some island without us or something. Okay, we said we we're going to do a quick hit on some of the other opportunities. We already spoke about Blast a little bit, where we think some attention is going. We touched on Ordinals. We've touched on Farcaster. So that's kind of all the things which Sol in the YouTube comments mentioned. Alan in the YouTube comments also said, I'm focusing on Blast, Swell, Etherfi, and Ordinals. Legendary, do you want to just touch on restaking potentially? We've always mentioned that as something that is interesting. And then we'll get into a bigger discussion on the headlines.
Yeah, absolutely. I think restaking, especially after the massive ETHFI airdrop, has been now more on people's mind, especially that you still have the situation that people are waiting for the Eigenlayer airdrop. Eigenlayer, obviously, at what is it, 20 bill TVL, or wherever it is right now. And after ETHFI, people are looking at other restaking managers or restaking managing dApps, basically allow you to use to restake your ETH into Eigenlayer very, very easily, as well as leveraged plays on that. Brett, who is in the audience with that, is definitely the person to follow if you're interested in the restaking game. He has been putting out amazing content around that, and also how you can basically use Pendlefy to have a bit of a leveraged farm going on certain restaking protocols. I think an interesting extension of the narrative is that some of those restaking protocols are also looking at having their own layer 2 solutions or networks being built. And again, that's something that we see in a lot of like micro bubbles in Web3, that once the competition is getting like more intense and it's getting tougher, that you want to stand out and then you build something on top of whatever protocol you're already building, whether that's an L2 on top of a restaking protocol, whether that's games, coming up with their own node solutions or L2s as well. So that's definitely interesting to track and follow.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Shout out to Bread Guy producing some of the best content with helpful diagrams as well. I told him we need some diagrams the other day. Been seeing some diagrams, always very helpful for us to visualize how the money is moving and to understand what's going on with some of these fairly complex protocols. Because to be fair to restaking, like practically, it's quite an easy thing to do. You just take your ETH, you turn it into a different type of ETH, and you just you press. Practically, it's like a quite quick thing to do, but to understand actually what's happening does require a little bit more research. Wanted to bring NFT Stats just before we get into the headlines. NFT Stats, would love to just hear from you for a moment to just hear your think on like the various opportunities. I saw a tweet that you sent as well recently, which like the timeline seems very fragmented, all these different people chasing different opportunities. How do you see all of them as things stand? Like, what do you like the most at the moment? We've got Blast, Ordinals, Farcaster, Restaking. Anything particularly catching your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I put that up there because I was noticing that like Thread Guy was just like all these people who used to be people who kind of were all in the same orbit as I was, were tweeting about things I just knew nothing about. I mean, Thread Guy is just going on nonstop about DEGEN token.
Yeah.
And Deez and Tyler are tweeting out a new shitcoin every day, and and then you got a fair bit of people who are talking about ordinals. And for me, it was just like I've just completely gone down the Blast rabbit hole. I've just gone down the Blast farming rabbit hole. That's kind of like the orbit that when I have spare time, I spend it in. And it's not because I think it's because my strategy tends to be more to find opportunities where you don't take tons of risk. And I think like farming Blast, like obviously with everything we do, you're taking platform risk in a very major way. And we all learned that from Munchables as well as a lot of things. But like almost everything I have on Blast is not directional exposure. It's just literally just trying to earn points. And, I saw how much money people made farming Blur. So that's just kind of, but it's not that I think it's the best of all the options. It's just that it's all I have the brain space for, because I have a full-time job and 3 kids. So I either just like don't have the brain space to dive deep into. I have a Farcaster account. I still can't figure out even what the wallet it's on is to get my DEGEN.
Honestly, man, I'm the same. I don't.
Yeah, I didn't know how to get my own DEGEN. And I have an account. But I can't even get the damn token. Not to say analyze it. So that's kind of a bit of where I currently stand.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's so many things happening. It's just like things with like you're pseudo involved in, but you just can't quite make the final leap of understanding. So I have the same thing with DEGEN, where it's like people have actually started tipping me now, which is great, but I don't know like how to get it, where to go, and what even wallet is attached to it. And just you mentioned Munchables on the risk curve. You might have seen today the NFT is pumping. So it's like, how are you supposed to keep on top of all this? Like you thought you got rugged, but at the same time, now the NFT price is going up. I don't know to what extent it had dropped beforehand. But now I think the funds should be returned relatively soon. So just so many things going on from all different angles. We'll definitely want to hear more from you, Sam. We've got the Meme Land news coming up, which we'd love some more context on in just a little bit. But let's get into the main headlines for the day. We've got 20 minutes left on the show. Just a reminder for people, we're live on X or audio, but we're also on YouTube and video on X too. Legendary, I think we said we wanted to get into the Ethena airdrop news first. Why did we pick this to particularly report on? Because it's actually a very significant token in the sense that it's got a very big goal that it's seeking to address. The whole problem had been that stablecoins, despite being such a big use case for crypto and one of the winning use cases for crypto, was still reliant on the traditional banking system in the sense that your stablecoins need to be backed by dollars in a bank. And what we saw last year with the run on the banks is that we weren't sure whether our stablecoins were actually backed by dollars that were definitely there or not. And so what Ethena seeks to do is kind of put that risk into the crypto, internalize that risk and make sure it's spread between custodians in the crypto ecosystem, and kind of trying to cut out the traditional banks and make sure we're in control of that. And they've really raised a huge amount. There's a huge amount of dollars that have gone into this new stablecoin. Legendary, I'll probably pass over to you here. I've provided some context. You might want to give some more before we talk a little bit about the token and where it's launched.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what initially also captured the attention on the timeline when Ethena went live was the very, very high APY that you could get. Like, I think straight off the gate, it was at 30%, and it was well before Blast had increased their USDB native yield from 5 to 15% as a result of MakerDAO almost running out of DAI, and they had their hand forced to do that. And basically, before all of that happened, you had this new protocol coming out with a very, very high yield that people tried to understand what it worked and how essentially funding rates were hedged or used to produce that yield, because everyone was so long on the market that shorting came with a negative funding rate. So basically, you would make money if you would short ETH just by being paid in terms of the funding rate. And I think that this took a bit of time to settle in, and for the timeline, or for parts of the timeline, to understand what's happening. To me, what I was always cautious about that model was that high volatility in the market would lead to funding rates changing very, very quickly and could jeopardize the whole system. And I know that they do have insurance for that, but I also know that the insurance that they had at the beginning was relatively small compared to the growing rate that the protocol saw. So maybe just that as a bit of an additional context, how Ethena managed to garner a lot of attention very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Helpful further context there. So the token has come out today. I'm going to share this on screen for the people watching in. The token has come out today at an almost $9 billion FDV. It's about 60 cents. In terms of some other info on it, there was 750 million ENA will be distributed today, 5% of the total supply. It was trading on Wales Market at about 0.7, so 10 cents down on Wales Market. Launched with all the major centralized exchanges as well. So this is the other kind of additional piece of news that was announced along with this, was this idea that MakerDAO proposes to allocate $600 million worth of DAI into USDE and staked USDE. And Ryan Watkins had this to say. He said the first 100 million allocated to these vaults is earning Maker $50 million annualized. Demand was so strong, borrowers maxed out within hours. New proposal will increase DAI allocated by five times, potentially generating $250 million plus in additional revenue for Maker. Legendary, did you have any thoughts on this kind of big proposal? Just a little bit more information for people. MakerDAO is considering allocating 600 million. Both USD and staked USD are issued from stablecoin developer Ethena. They're currently in a proposal state. Should the MakerDAO community confirm the move, it would put Ethena total value locked growth on track with internal expectations. This was the point I mentioned earlier. USDE, so this Ethena USD, currently has 1.34 billion tokens in supply, which comprises 1.74% of the total Ethereum stablecoin supply. I thought that was like, it's not a super high number, but given that they're brand new, pretty decent. Legendary. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously those are very big numbers for protocol that new, and I very much agree with a post by Mark Zeller, the Aave, or one of the Aave founders, who basically made the point saying 1 billion DAI minute out of thin air, 20% of the whole supply into non-battle tested protocol with zero risk mitigation, weak oracles in less than a month for asset hypersensible to market condition is the definition of reckless, and will propose LTV reduction of DAI in Aave today. And that reminded me of also the move in Blast, which I just referenced before, where like there was this sudden increase in native yield of USDB from 5 to 15%, which obviously was presented to the timeline in a way that, look what we've done, like we tripled the yield on USDB, and not really, the point was not really make that it had to be done, because they were literally running out of DAI. And if that wouldn't, if they hadn't increased the yield, because obviously the yield on lending, because everyone's longing was so high that people were taking DAI, trading that into another stable coin, and making 16-70% on that. So that is a move that had to be made, but my issue with it was that it's basically happened last minute. Like it was so close before they were to run out of their own DAI supply. So that already seemed a bit reckless to me, and this is why I do tend to agree very strongly with Mark's point on that big move into Ethena with that amount of size also feels similarly reckless.
Yeah, interesting. It does feel like something which, I mean, I'm thinking about it from a personal perspective too. I wanted exposure to this like new type of stable coin, but it wasn't something I was going to put a huge amount in, but I definitely wanted some. It, for some reason at the moment, it definitely doesn't feel, as they said, like battle tested. And so the default position seems to be like, you don't want to put too much in. And maybe for some people, this is just like, that would be overstepping the mark. Like this is too much to put in to protocol that has not been battle tested in that way. But at the same time, I think they do want to attract more and more capital. So if it's not coming from one place, it will probably come from another as things stand. Sammy, do you have any reflections on Ethena? What are your thoughts here before we move on to meme land?
Yeah, I mean, any move in size, it makes sense for these guys who are in charge of the protocols to manage their risk. And I think, what's his name, the chainsaw guy for Aave, he's making an executive decision there that this is a bit too reckless. I agree with what he's saying. I think that 600 million is a cap. So they are limiting the amount of exposure to this USDE. So there is that. But I do like the dashboard that Ethena has. Like it has transparency over where like all the underlying assets are custody and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of see what's happening on chain. But I agree that like, yeah, if you have too much exposure to one counterparty, then that risk is too high. So you need to make those adjustments.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff there. Before we get into the meme land headlines, want to do the Web3 roundup as always from the snapshot, which is pinned up top to get you up to speed with everything else that is going on. TROC with your hand raised will come to you in just a little bit too as part of this meme land news. So here we go. The Web3 roundup in the snapshot. Number 1, Mew airdrops 5% of supply to Saga Chapter 2 phone buyers. They also have airdropped a bunch to the Solana initial phone holders. So I checked my phone earlier today and I have some $150 of Mew, which is kind of nice. Number 2, Zeus announces first airdrop on Jupiter LFG platform will take place on Thursday. That's part of a bunch of airdrops taking place this week. We have Ethena today. We have Wormhole tomorrow and Zeus on Thursday. Next, Juice Finance on Blast accelerates Juice buyback with 30 ETH of buyback of tokens. Number 4, Uniswap passes $1 billion volume on Base over the weekend. So Base TVL and volume really picking up in general. We kind of touched on that already. Moving on, Zora announces ability for creators to accept payments for mints in alternative tokens. It seems to be the things that I'm reading, haven't got anything concrete on this, but there could be a similar type of coin like DEGEN, but operating for Zora. I need to check my DMs on that, to be honest. But I think that is what's is playing out at the moment there. Definitely worth looking into if you've been involved in Zora a lot. Number 2, Pixelmon reveal first trailer of anime season. A very cool trailer that they put out, doubling down on the anime videos. And finally, Tether, this was from a couple of days ago, I think. Tether buys 8,888 Bitcoin, that's $627 million, bringing its Bitcoin bag to 75,354 Bitcoin. That is the definition of increasing your Bitcoin stack. Legendary, that is the Web3 Roundup. We're going to get into the final headline for today. We said that Memeland had this announcement to do with MemeNet. For the people listening in and watching, it was this. MemeNet is a blockchain that offers a safe, low-cost, DEGEN-friendly way to build on-chain. We're incubating MemeNet inside of Memeland, leveraging the last decade of our experience building social and crypto products. We plan to decentralize the chain progressively. I don't know if that means like a new coin or whether meme token is already the coin. Well, it says MemeNet will issue a redacted, so could that be the token for the chain, and use meme as its native gas token. Interesting stuff. What do we think about this, Legendary? And then obviously we'd love to hear from NFT Stats Sam, who is at Memeland as well, to get more context and information. Legendary first.
Yeah, I said it before with reference to gaming and reference to restaking that competition is getting more intense, and it is a move to build your own blockchain, and it is a move that doesn't really make sense for a lot of players and participants in this space. Memeland is definitely an exception to that. They have the size, scale, and experience and use case to build their own blockchain. So it's one of those use cases where I'm like, it makes sense to do that. And I think that it's not only about like the use case, but it's also about the size that you have. And realistically, if you're a smaller game or a smaller protocol, having your own blockchain won't do you any good. And I think there's a very high threshold that you need to fulfill, after which it makes sense, or it's like an idea to explore to have your own chain. And I definitely think that Memeland is significantly above the threshold. So I think it's a pretty cool idea that they're doing this.
Yeah, interesting. To be honest, I've never thought about it a huge amount. I know that on AVAX, for example, there's all this subnet hype, and it feels like you don't necessarily need to be super big in order to have your own. But equally, maybe that just operates differently because it's on AVAX.
No, I mean, you can build a blockchain. There's like already basically tools where you can, just like you can deploy a meme coin, there's tools where you can deploy your own blockchain pretty easily, your own L2. We could do a monomarket L2, but it wouldn't really make sense to do it right now. Next bull.
Okay, that's fine. Next bull then. Love to go to NFT Stats. Sam, would love to hear your thoughts on this, man. Like, any additional thoughts? What's the reasoning here? Like, what's the reasoning for MemeNet and needing your own chain?
Every time you call on me, I have to search all my tabs for the one that has your spaces. So sorry, it can take some time sometimes. This is the most boring answer. It's not something I can comment on right now.
Damn it.
Yeah, sorry.
Redacted.
I'm curious, a totally different topic. I want, if there's time, I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it. If we can't talk about this more, let's move it to something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how you are dealing, because I've thought of, with this kind of dispersion of topics that people care about and shit all over the place, how are you dealing with writing a daily newsletter? Because I'm just thinking, like, if I had to do my show right now, like, it would take hours and hours and hours to prepare because there's just too much stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most challenging things about the current space. I think first you just accept that there's going to be a bunch of things that won't make it. Like I don't try to get every single thing. And I kind of I view the newsletter kind of like a skeleton, which we then flesh out more on the show and talk about things which didn't get a chance to go in it. So I feel like if people read the newsletter and then watch the show as well, then they'll get the complete holistic thing. But there's just no way for me to get all of the content in to the newsletter alone. But yeah, I guess the answer to your question is with great difficulty, because as you said, like there's been these different segments. You've got Blast stuff, you've got Ordinals stuff, you've got Farcaster stuff, and you know that could all be there could be multiple entries in all of those things. And the only way to really speak about them in detail is to be able to have a little section on the show potentially. But equally, like you just can't hit them all, which I think is actually why there's a number of people who have been able to create more specific media channels solely focused on these things. So someone like English, for example, whose show is literally called Everything Ordinals, I think, from what I remember, or something like that. And so they can go like way deeper. And I guess we just come off as a kind of more general headline, a general NFT market show, whereas there'll be more specific ones at the moment. But I mean, I'd throw the question back at you, Sam. Like, how have you found it covering this stuff as well?
Everything about why our JPEGs are better than your JPEGs. No, I mean, like I said, for me, it's been hard because I mean, having a job, I just was visiting my parents with my kids, like all that stuff. Like I feel like I'm very behind, and I you know, especially I have so much. I mean, I always say, you think you're having a bad day? I built like an entire infrastructure on analyzing ETH NFTs. Imagine that, you know. Now there's like nothing to say other than like, you know, they're going lower and they're getting massively farmed. That's like the same point to say every single day. So yeah, so for me, it's been quite hard. I'm like I feel like my, you know, I have a full-time job that has nothing to do with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, it's like I'm busy with other stuff, but also yeah, it just from someone who like takes pride in like having a Twitter account that keeps people up to speed on things that are going on. It's been difficult, and I don't want to talk too much about Blast, even though that's like if my account were only about Blast, I could provide a ton of insight. It's just I feel like 85% of my audience doesn't care about Blast, so so it has been a tough stretch from like a maintaining kind of the cadence that I like to maintain perspective.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I think we obviously all skew to the things that we're involved in most as well. So like one of the things I mean, I similarly talk a reasonable amount about Blast. I also kind of cut out the meme coin stuff, for example. So like I know that's a lot of noise on the timeline actually. And we kind of make a decision. It's like, well, look, something's hot one day, it's not the next day. Another thing's hot the next day, then it's not the next day. Like we'll probably just cut that stuff out unless it's something exceptionally prominent. Legendary, Sammy, you're covering everything just as much as me. Like, what are you thinking?
I think it's helpful that there's three of us and we have a bit of a like topical split between the three of us. Probably I'm the person who leans the heaviest into gaming out of the three of us.
That's true.
And that helps a lot because like if I wouldn't be the host of the show, I would still listen in. Because it is my daily news download. I said, and I made it, I was like very serious about it. I missed what was happening over the weekend because I was exposed just to my Blast bubble and my gaming bubble. So I missed the general download on the rest of the market because I didn't have the snapshot. And I think splitting responsibilities, if you want to cover more, is something that's very, very helpful in the bull market if you have like a close group of friends where you can do that because you realistically can't stay on top of all the things yourself. And in terms of the show and meme coins, definitely agree. Like there's no point in us covering meme coins really, because the only thing we can say is either something went to zero, like Machi's coin, or something did 100x, but you can't really live cover that stuff. And it's not helpful. Like it's not helpful to someone in the audience to be like, this meme coin did 100x. And what will this person do with the info? They missed it by that point already because it was hot 5 hours ago or a day ago. So definitely agree with that take, why we don't lean too heavily into covering those markets.
Yeah, I agree. Sammy, what do you think?
I definitely agree, like splitting those responsibilities, because you only have so much bandwidth to share that attention and capacity. So I definitely agree from that standpoint. I do think that if you cover what you thoroughly enjoy, then you're probably going to cover it better than other people. So I think just kind of narrowing down what your key focus and what your key attention is on and what you're finding the most interesting, you're naturally going to be able to produce something that other people find interesting. But I do get Sam's point that if your audience are split across a wide range of things, like sometimes they're just not going to be interested, and that's definitely a difficult balance to do. But I think we cover it pretty broadly. I do think that the meme coins, I mean, I covered Bohm, but I think after that point it very much becomes the samey. It's not too dissimilar to like concepts and things like that you can cover, so it gets a little bit boring for me personally over time. And also it becomes a little bit saturated, so I kind of pivot to something else that I find interesting personally.
I think what you mentioned there is probably the key point. It's like on some level I mean, maybe we serve some purpose because people can get like a general holistic thing, like people are interested in everything. But at one point in time, it was literally the NFT space was entirely and solely focused around ETH NFTs, and everyone was interested in that and also interested in crypto more generally. Whereas now you will legit have people NFT participants, but they're just completely on the ordinal side and have absolutely no interest on the ETH side. And you have people who like legit diehard Solana, and they will have no interest in any of the other stuff. So definite fracturing of the audience, but maybe this is inevitable as the space gets bigger. We have come towards the end of the show. Tiro, you've had your hand raised for a moment. What's your reflection on the way the space is kind of fracturing in that way? Quick one to take us out.
Yeah, I'm gonna play mop up real quick. You guys missed this weekend, MFR coin and Poop coin.
Yep.
You know, those are two crazy things that happened. Poop coin wasn't with Doodles, no affiliation.
Yep.
Poopy launched it. Hasn't really done much, kind of just there. It's on the base network, and you know, that's one thing. I looked on Farcaster. I have 940 some followers, and I still don't even know what the DEGEN token is and how to get it. So that's my fault. Right, that's my issue.
Tiro, Oxy's put a tweet in the comments. I think he'd written a thread on like, if you don't know what's going on Farcaster, go and check it out, because I think that will help you out.
100%. And then I pre-ordered the Chapter 2 Solana phone, and people are all upset. Why are you locking up $600 to buy this phone that you're waiting over a year to get? You're not going to get till 2025. Got an airdrop of Cat in the Dog World. The token name is Mew. Now it's worth over $230 right now.
There we go. That's
it'll make me more of a fan of Android and Apple, because they're actually giving back. So now we got a third party candidate. So love it. Thank you for the forum. Everyone have a great Tuesday. Everyone have a great one. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Cheers, Tiro. Appreciate you. And thank you everyone else for joining in. Thank you as always to my co-host Legendary and Sammy. Thank you to our speakers, NFT Stats, Oxy, Funky, and Tiro. And thank you for the rest of you joining in. We do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT. We will be back live on X, live on YouTube too tomorrow, Wednesday. Have a wonderful day. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.